Okay guys, so welcome to another episode of Knife Thursday, and this has been a long-awaited one for me for my favorite EDC, the Benchmade 940. Now if you guys have been watching, you know that I lost mine, and I made a video about, you know, the best EDC of all time and all that stuff, and I named this knife as it, and you're wondering, how does he have another one? Well, long story short, a very generous person from that saw my video on YouTube decided that they wanted to send me one, and they wish to remain anonymous, so I can't name them. Thank you so much. I now have another 940, which is very cool to have my favorite knife back and not having to pay for it a second time. It was actually my third 940. I gave one away that had the partially serrated edge. But anyway, let's do what we came here to do, which is the EDC Gauntlet. This is the factory edge. I have not touched it. I've done my best to not cut too much with it. I did get a lot of the stuff ready for the Gauntlet with it, but other than that, it's pretty much factory standard. So let's jump right in and see what this thing will do. Okay, so let's jump right in and we'll see what this factory edge can do on some paper. Okay. That's obviously no problem. I'm not going to belabor that. So let's jump right in with our rope cutting. We'll do the 4 individual on the paracord. Oh yeah, like nothing. And then we'll do all 4 together, and then we'll do our sisal rope. Okay, very little effort. Not quite as smooth as the Crooked River was, if you watch that review with the polished edge, but for a toothy edge from the factory, this is doing pretty good. It wasn't quite all the way through. I noticed the biggest difference on this, on the sisal rope, that the polished edge just absolutely tears through this, and all these toothy edges seem to struggle a little bit unless you cut them and you use more of the blade. But the polished edge would just push cut right through it. I have not been counting, so I hope you guys have been counting. I did, I think, 15 the last time, so that's somewhere in that neighborhood between 10 and 15. Let's see how it does after our rope. Try to get it out by the end. Okay, so no appreciable difference. Alright, let's jump into our zip ties. And we'll just go through, pop these. Okay, and we'll try to get under there with the tip. Oop, slipped off. There it goes. So there's the 10 zip ties done. Really no issues there. Let's stab it in, do some boring with it. Now this is one of the reasons that I love the 940 so much, is because this tip, just the way everything is ground, you can see you have like an awful lot of strength right up there. It's pretty thick all the way to where the point is, but it really doesn't seem to hinder the slicing so much. Now this is not going to be as good a slicer as maybe like a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 or something of that nature, but it certainly slices quite well. Let me get these things out of the way. And it's a lot stronger. Like I said before in one of my other videos, I do a lot of sharpening, and these Spydercos that come in, you should see the amount of flex they have while I'm sharpening, and I'm astounded at how many come in with bent tips. Actually, I'm not astounded, because you start looking at their blade geometry and they're perfect for slicing, but for a lot of other things they're not so good. Let's see here. Okay, so it's doing a little bit of prying. I think I went a couple extra layers on this duct tape than what I normally do, but still working great. So no worries about that. No blade play, no up and down. Hint of side to side, but that's because I loosened it. I like them fairly loose. So anyway, oh, listen to this. I don't know if you can hear it. Did you hear that like little click when I pull back on the axis lock? It's only when you really whip it open. Just get a hair of lock stick. Kind of like a frame lock, you know, sometimes they stick just a little bit, and that's what this axis lock is doing when it fires open pretty hard, just a smidge. But blade centering is just right and has a tiny bit of lock stick. Other than that, which on the axis lock will go away pretty shortly. But other than that, things performing like a champ. A little hang up there, I think, unless it's just me. I don't know. This paper sometimes is hard to tell, but I do feel some hang-ups, and you know what that probably is? On these factory edges. Oh wow, that's not good. On these factory edges, a lot of times, I doubt you'll be able to see it on this camera, but they leave a little bit of a burr on the sharpening, and when that burr starts to waffle and come apart, which is normal, you'll go through a brief period until that burr falls off, where you'll get snags and hookups on paper like this. I'm willing to bet that after some of these other cut tests that burr will go away and it will actually cut better. It doesn't seem like it makes sense, but I looked at the blade very closely and I saw the sharpening burr before. Oh, you guys get to hear my lovely fire siren in the back that is unlike any fire siren that I've ever heard in my life before, but where I live they have these weird ones. Anyway, let's just get in and cut some of this stuff. See how this thing does. You guys hear that? If you can hear that, go ahead and comment below if you have like a traditional siren or you have one of these weird ones, because I'm curious to see if like my area is the only one, because I've lived in a lot of places and I've never heard these dumb sirens. It's like they're the goofiest things in the world. Again, guys, this is maple from the backyard, freshly cut this morning. And by the way, it is kind of early morning. I don't know if you can tell all the fog that we've got. But yeah. So anyway, I was trying to do all these cuts before we jump in and do another paper cut test. And like I said, I think that these burrs will all have probably gotten out of the way by the time we go to do that after this wood cutting here. Oh, good grief. Well, that's what happens when you dig too deep and you get a pop on it. Anyway, I think it's done the requisite amount. That was operator error. So, let's see if our paper cutting has changed. Boy, look at all the gunk on that blade from that maple. Still got that little hang up. Oh, there we go. I think some of it was operator error. Some of it's just stickiness on the blade. And some of it is that burr. So, that is slightly disappointing. As I look closely, I can see that burr folded over. Let's go on to the cardboard with the excuse me, with the duct tape on it. You can see it's really not having any trouble slicing through that. That's what I've noticed about S30V factory grinds, is they lose that like high initial sharpness pretty quickly, but they'll stay functionally sharp to slice through stuff for like a long time. So I don't know, it's kind of just like a weird steel, and it's something I noticed. It's going through this stuff, if I could keep it out of the choil, pretty easy. There's 4. See if I can split this last piece. Okay, there's 5 cuts, a little more than I normally do. Let's just do a couple more of these cuts. But you can see, you know, I don't know, it's just what I've noticed about S30V and Benchmades in particular, that it loses that initial sharpness, you know, that will shave or that will, you know, easily go through the paper, but then it'll stay sharp enough to cleanly cut this stuff like for a long time. And speaking of Benchmade's S30V, in my experience sharpening quite a few blades, I think I'm over about 300 under my belt on my Wicked Edge at this point with the business, and I've had a lot of brands come in, and I think as far as S30V goes, I've had the best experience with Benchmades. Doesn't help that this paper's getting soggy because it's so humid out here. But Spyderco's is easier to sharpen. It's softer, it files away quicker, so I don't think they heat treat it quite as hard. You know, maybe, I don't know what that would be. You still see that burr a bit, so I don't know how this is going to do on the paper. Yeah, no, it's just kind of tearing it right now. Still slice it like this, but coming at it from the edge, it's not doing as well. Yeah, well, there you go. I think that's just a factor of that burr. So, slightly disappointed with the burr on there, but yeah, I can see it. I think the guy who sharpened this one is probably at the end of the day. But again, even after that, it's still, you know, functionally very sharp. It'll still cut through stuff easily, but that paper test, it doesn't do so well on. So it's kind of one of those things where it's just a trend that I've noticed with S30V. Even when I sharpen my own blades, they're really, you know, there's other steels that hold the initial sharpness better, like 154 cm. It will dull quicker, but it'll hold that initial edge longer. So at least that's just my experiential. I'm not a metallurgist by any stretch, but there you go, guys. It's been the EDC Gauntlet with my favorite knife, the 940. Now this thing can finally go into the Wicked Edge and get the edge that I want on it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and thumbs up and subscribe. If you're looking for the 940, you can go check out St. Nick's Knives. They are not the ones that sent this to me, just FYI, but you can go check them out if you're looking to buy any Benchmade or anything else. And remember, guys, the under $50 shootout is coming up next Knife Thursday, so I will see you guys then.